Hey guys, Mike here, and in this video I'm going to compare for you the specs and the main features of this year's Apple flagship, the iPhone 5s, and last year's top of the line, the iPhone 5. Aesthetically, the two are almost identical. In fact, the untrained eye will hardly know which one is which, and that's because these two devices share the same form factor and design lines, with a metallic body, chamfered edges and pretty much the same buttons and ports placed in the same place around the case. In fact, they are completely identical in terms of size and weight as well. But there are at least two minor details that set this apart. On the back you'll notice that there's a bigger cut for the flash on the 5s, and the home button no longer has that squarish engraving on it on the newer device as it was redesigned. On the other hand, the home button integrates a fingerprint reader on the 5s, which is one of the new features available for the 2013 flagship iPhone. And last but not least, the iPhone 5s will be available in a larger selection of colors, including a champagne version. The screens are identical as well on these two phones, with the same panel, size and resolution. Rumors are talking about an IXO panel on the 5s, but unfortunately Apple failed to meet the expectations here. As for the hardware, the iPhone 5s is an incremental upgrade from last year's model. A higher clocked 64-bit Apple A7 processor powers it, with what looks like 2GB of memory and quad-core graphics, as opposed to the only 1GB of RAM and slower graphics on the 5. There's also an M7 Motion coprocessor on the 5s that gathers data from the gyroscope, compacts and accelerometer in order to offload work from the CPU and improve efficiency. All these translate in better benchmark results for the new iPhone and, at least in theory, a more efficient platform as well. In everyday use though, both phones will be able to easily handle all the multitasking, apps, games and multimedia content you might throw at them. Once 64-bit apps start flooding the store though, the new iPhone will gain an edge over the older model, but that might take a while. This aside, let's turn our attention on the camera. Apple chose not to increase the resolution of the main shooter on the iPhone 5s, which still packs an 8-megapixel sensor. Instead, they worked on improving the overall performances and the camera interface, adding a brighter f2.2 lens, a larger sensor, dual LED flash, better image stabilization and the ability to shoot 120 frames per second 720p videos. I'm waiting to see more real pics before I can draw any conclusions, but based on the specs, the iPhone 5s seems to address exactly the things that needed attention on the older 5, and that's a great approach in my opinion. Connectivity-wise, the two iPhones are once again on par, offering fast dual-band wireless, Bluetooth 4.0, GPS and 4G support, so basically there's nothing new on the 5s. Anyway, before we draw the line on these two devices, we should talk a bit more about the battery life. Both phones bundle a 1440 mAh battery, but with a more efficient hardware, the 5s should last slightly longer than the 5 on each charge. The official numbers released by Apple claim up to 250 hours of standby time for the iPhone 5s, 10 hours of video playing and 10 hours of internet use on LTE, which aren't exactly impressive these days, but are important bumps for what was offered by last year's model. We'll see how the two fare in everyday use. Last but not least, you should know that the iPhone 5 was officially retired and replaced by the iPhone 5s, which will start at $199 with 2-year contracts or $649 for the unlocked versions. You'll still find the iPhone 5 in stores for a while, selling for perhaps $100 to $150 less than the 5s, but only until it runs out of stock. At the end of the day, the iPhone 5s is in no way a revolutionary product. Just like what we've been used with in these several last years, the new iPhone is an incremental update from the iPhone 5. But to a larger or smaller extent, many of the phone's main aspects saw improvements, and I'm including here the hardware, the camera or the expected battery life. Are these enough to steer you towards the iPhone 5s and make this phone a good buy when compared to the top 2013 Android flagships? Well, that's up to you to decide, and I'm really looking for your opinions in the comments section. If you're wondering about what I think, well, I'm not impressed and I see very little reason to upgrade to the 5s from the 5. Anyway, that's about it for now. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next videos. But in the meantime, check out my other clips on the channel and stay tuned. More comparisons and detailed reviews for the new iPhones will be available in the next couple of weeks. See you soon.